Hey guys, it's Roger from Performance Center Racing Warehouse, PRW Chassis. Going to show you a piece of lost footage that I did before the pandemic, and I lost it, and I found it now. So it's talking with Larry Pollard. It's something really gives a lot of good information about kind of his career, how he went, what he came through, how he's kind of unique. A lot of people don't know about all the stuff that LP Gear does. And I hope you like it. I hope it brings you some value. Once again, busy in here. A couple cars on jigs. Shop's pretty full. Give us a shout if we can help you with anything. More than glad to do what we can. Thanks. Have a good day. All right, this is episode 11. I'm here with Larry Pollard. Super excited to do this. I've been trying to get him to come down and see me for a while. He's super busy most of the time up there with doing all the things that rear end work and gears and trannies. And for many of you that don't know, Larry Pollard been a racer most of his life. Canadian born.
Yep. Started at 5. And
Started a typical story, right? Typical racer story.
Yep.
Really, I think, an underestimated guy. I don't think so many people know your story, which is one of the reasons I really wanted to get you to come on here. Just, I mean, there's some greatness in your backstory. Just different guys. Richard Petty, I see you work for Ricky Rudd for a while.
Richard Childers.
Yep. Yeah. Did a lot of great things. Tell us about it. Tell us about what right, first non-U.S. born to win Busch Grand National race.
That was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Tell us about it.
Wow.
Thanks for coming. First off, thanks for coming.
This is cool, Roger. I've always wanted to come up here. We just haven't put the time.
It's just time,
together.
yeah, for sure.
But this worked out for this one, and just bottom line, Roger, wanted to race. Raced all my life. My dad and I raced back in the hometown of Victoria, BC. Won a lot of races, but nevertheless raced, having fun doing it. And then I got the opportunity to come down south with Richard Childers called me, and to work with him. He hired this new driver, Ricky Rudd, and he says, we raced on the West Coast, so we'd race at Riverside and then places. Sure. And we pitted beside Richard Childers one time with our car from Victoria, with Roy Smith driving, and I got to know him, didn't get to know him as a friend, but anyways, when Richard put this deal together, Ricky Rudd, he asked Gary Nelson. He said, I'm trying to put this deal together. Do you know any guys? And he says, you need to get this guy from Canada, Larry Pollard. He can do it all. That's where it started.
That's awesome.
I was at home in Victoria, BC, Canada. One night the phone rang, and it said, yeah, this is Richard Childers. And I'm going, yeah, right. And he says, I want you, if you're interested, come to work for us. I said, heck yeah, I'll see that. Yeah. Thought I was joking away, but sure. I didn't.
Right.
He said, I saw you at Riverside, and I've talked to Gary Nelson. He says you'd be a good guy to have with us because you can do a little bit of everything. And I said, man, that's cool. Give me a couple. He said, I got 2 weeks. And he said, that's fine. So I went to Dad, and I just finished buying our little auto repair shop in Victoria, BC from my dad. He was wanting to retire.
Nice.
So I put that all together, and I went back to him about 2 weeks after I'd done it. I said, Dad, I got this deal here. Would you mind going back in to run the shop? I'm going to try this.
Come out of retirement.
Yeah. So he did, and he was that kind of guy. He'd do everything for his son. And so I left, went there, and 6 months later I called him and said, Dad, this is you want to do it for another 6 months?
Probably not going to come back. Probably not going to come back.
And after a year, he says, can you sell that place for me? So that's kind of where it started, but just not for money, not for anything else, but I just wanted to race, just the race, And that's what I think a lot of the real grassroots racers about. They just want to race. If it's
was driving more your passion or working on the car more your passion?
Driving, definitely, yeah. My dad always said, he says he's a way better driver than he is a mechanic, because I would hog some stuff up, boy, I tell you. But you had to race, you know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
But back then, this is the way it
Different
was.
game.
A
Different
different
game.
game,
Different
different
game.
game. You go to the race and watch it run and say, "There's a super stock."
Right.
Dad, let's build one of them. So you'd go to the auto wreckers and get a spindle off a 59 Mercury, and you go get the brakes off this, and you put it together yourself. You didn't, in the program when you said, let's race, it wasn't, well, who's got the best cars right now? Where do we need to buy them? You
100%.
made them.
You built it yourself.
You built it, and you learned how each component worked, how it reacted. So that's where it all started. But I'd love to race them. And we won a lot of races. I mean, back home, man, we won a lot of races, and coming down here, I was just thinking about, like as a crew chief, as an owner, as a driver, I've won in Winston Cup, Bush, super late model stocks, Pro 4s. I mean, so.
That's an unbelievable resume just in itself, right?
Like, you don't think about that, because every time you do a deal, it's not money.
Right.
It's just, these guys are neat to work with. Maybe I can teach you something. Maybe I can't. Don't matter. But I'm learning myself, and that's why you do it.
I want to ask you something, because you've been very successful, and I have a ton of questions here that I want to ask you. But this is one thing that.
I'm taking too long to answer.
No, you're not. We have all the time we need. We won't run out of tape for a couple hours.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's good. I want you to explain to younger people something that I took from a few of my other interviews that I don't think people are understanding. Explain how hard this has been. Like, I think it excites me. I get excited because that's what I realize that this is a long game, right? I realize that at 18, most people aren't ready to do what they're doing, right? Even me at 18, when I was doing what I was doing, or you, we probably weren't ready. We were probably over our heads.
Oh, absolutely not.
Explain how hard you've worked. I mean, I don't think people understand. You built gears and trannies for many cup shops. You built it for us at Finch years ago.
Right. I remember that. Yeah.
Like, you've been in this game a long time. I think people sometimes think that they can just dip their toe in the water and, boy, this will be great, and I'll do gears and trannies because I did them at a cup deal, or I did here, I did there. It's been hard, huh?
Yeah.
It's been hard.
And the thing that's hard is the mistakes. And the things you don't understand is when somebody comes in to ask you for advice or your opinion on something, all of a sudden you're drawing on years of mistakes and mess-ups to present them with an answer. And it's so hard to understand when a young boy, an 18 or something younger now.
Young, right, yeah.
Yeah, come in with their dad or whatever. They say, well, what would you do about this, So you sit back and you think, you say, well, this is what I would do. But I says, if you don't do the whole thing, don't ask me.
Right, doesn't matter.
What I mean?
Yep. I agree.
It's like if you come down here with Greg and yourself, when they say, what spring do you run at Hickory Motor Speedway? Well, you're absolutely telling them a fib if they don't do the whole thing.
It makes them mad when you tell them,
yes.
right? But I understand that, so I try to work through it. It ends up being a 20 or 30-minute process to try to work through an answer, which I enjoy too. Sometimes just watching the light bulbs in different people's heads come on to see, oh, I didn't think about that, or I didn't think about that. The sheer, how many times have you wanted to quit?
Oh, good many.
Good many.
When you bust your butt on a certain project and it doesn't work out and your customer isn't happy, you just go, why?
Right.
I'm not making enough money here to put up with this, but I'm learning.
Do you think that's the biggest misnomer about people in this thing, that they believe that you're making $1 million, or no?
I think so.
I do too.
I really do. And it's sad because I'm making a good living. And the biggest thing is about this whole deal, when I get up in the morning, I want to go to work.
Yeah.
When I go unlock that door and turn that switch on, and knows it's going to cost X amount of dollars to turn the lights on and this and that, blah, blah, blah. But I enjoy being there.
Sure.
When that ends, I quit,
What is one piece of advice that if you wanted to tell all your customers one thing that would help you, right? Like I sometimes wish, I've worked with our customer base a lot. it helps us because we've been very busy lately. When a customer brings a car to us that's almost completely stripped down, right? It helps us immensely. I mean, it's a couple hours. It's a big deal in some cases. What is one thing that with people, we don't talk a lot about rear end maintenance or rear end things. It's kind of just, I have a lot of customers that they've never had their, they just bought it brand new and they don't understand. What is the biggest thing that if you could tell your customer base one thing that would really help them in a long-term deal? Is it maintenance? Is it springs? Is it a certain manufacturer? Is it finding someone you like to work with?
Well,
I think the racer's looking for help, and he doesn't know where to get it.
The magic word, and I think you'll agree with this, Roger, keep it simple, stupid.
I agree.
I mean, so many times people have brought us stuff in there, and man, we're struggling. We can't do this and that. So you go and you look at it, and it's nothing trick. I mean, I hate this trick stuff in racing. There is different things that come along that are an advantage, but for the most part, at most of these fellows' development or in their career, keep it simple. Let's learn the basics, you know. And if you come in and the toe is out on the car, it ain't going to run.
It happens here all the time.
It is not. You're going to struggle. You know, I mean, if the springs aren't correct, you're going to struggle.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you can't make it's so close nowadays. You got to have all the stuff right. So the best thing you can do is keep it simple, stupid. Get the little things right. Get the thing straight. Get the locker working right. Get the toe right. You know what I mean? That's where it's all at.
For the normal guy, right? And I think that's a defining term. Greg and Marla and I talk about a lot of time. The normal guy in the racing deal, it seems to move. Our customers never really the same. We get a lot of aspects of a lot of different walk of life. So I don't know that there is a certain customer base.
I agree.
The rear end for a lot of them is overwhelming. The rear ends and transmissions and gears for many, many people are really overwhelming. For those people, maintenance, what do you suggest the most of? They're not going to probably come up and learn a gear and transmission class as to what, synchros, and they're not. So how do we help them?
Yeah, there's so much in them that people don't understand. Well, springs and it's straight. Well, the thing is nowadays, you've got to understand what the locker does, what this does, what does that. And over the years, like we talked about earlier, you learn them things.
Little things.
We take it as norm, but it's so important to do. So once you get your rear working like whoever you take it to works like, then keep that as your baseline. Take it home, put some toe sticks on it, see what it is.
Sure.
Take a feel of the locker springs. If they feel different, the car is going to be different. If the toe's different, the car is going to be different. So there's no magic to that. Keep it simple. Just, every time you go to the race, you're on the scales, you're weighing it up. Put the toe sticks on the back.
Yes.
Well, that's exactly what it was when we got it back from
Yes.
LP.
I like that. That's something we big push here too. If we set your car up, I want you to take this thing home, and then I want you to measure it all the way with the sheet I gave you, because now we can see what your scales were compared to mine.
Yes.
Now we can see, do you have 2 degrees less camber on your floor than is on my plate, or your gauge, or your whatever. Now it gives us a mode of communication. So I really like that. Great tip.
Yeah,
Great.
you got a sheet to go back to.
Yes.
And when we got it all fixed, we went to the race. Man, we ran pretty daggum good. Well, then, if something changes, go to that sheet.
Yeah.
Measure it the way you measured it. Take the measurements the way you did. Then at least you're back to where you were.
Sure. I agree. You get to see, you get to do a good bit of transmissions and rear ends from multi-million-dollar organizations to small guys. I'm intrigued by that. I'm intrigued I think every small guy in the world wants to know what's behind the curtain of bigger organizations' rear ends. Are they getting the same thing as I am? How close would you say that there is, right? I mean, there's only so much we can improve to a point now, correct? Would you not say?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to be realistic behind it?
Yeah, and there again, I hate to sound repetitive here, but when you take a guy's transmission apart, he says, well, I just need synchros put in it. You got to take it somewhere else. Why is that? Because over the years, we have learned that we have done this, and we didn't check that,
And it
bit
failed.
us.
And then
And it bit us.
you were responsible.
And then dadgum, Roger just went through it. He's a bad guy.
That's it.
You know what I mean? So
Yes.
we say, no, if you want us to go through it, is it going to make it any faster? Probably not. But if you let us build it the way we want it, it's going to be as fast as you can. But we're going to try to curb the failure issues here.
Right.
Or the
Elimination.
vibrations. You
Right.
know, okay, why do you check the main shaft in every trans? Because if there's a vibration, you got a problem. You know what I mean? But it takes that extra 12, 13 minutes to put it on our machine, check the main shaft. Why do you mag it? If you got a cracked tooth in this thing, I don't know nothing about this transmission. I don't know if it's been backed into the fence or you wheel hopped on a burnout. We got to check it.
Yeah.
If you don't check it and you fix this man's transmission, and he goes to the racetrack and the first practice the thing fails, guess who gets the blame for it?
I love where you're at.
Yeah.
I love where you're at. Just happened. This is matter perfect. We just happened yesterday. A guy, hey, we'd like to have our car set up. I'm like, great. He's like, you set it up the last time. It was great. It shouldn't need anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay,
Heard that.
awesome. I said, well, how many races? It's got a few races on it.
15.
No, it didn't say that. He didn't say that. He said it's got a few races on it. I said, great. He said last time you had to put all new ball joints and tie rods in it, so it shouldn't need those.
Right.
Every car's been hit on this, and I'm not dogging
I didn't hit
him as a
anything.
customer. I just doesn't think. I appreciate his business to be actual 100% honest because he doesn't know, so he chooses to bring it to us, right? And he was happy, so he brought it back again. The intriguing part to me is a lot of little things add up to big things, and it's very hard to handicap. I would love to do that economy model deal for you, but the problem is once it doesn't work out, now the brand is tarnished,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
The brand is tarnished.
Yeah, I've heard that many times. Why is that rear bent? I didn't hit anything. Well, by God, you can come over here and check it out, but it's bent.
Yeah, right.
Well, by God, he did get in the wall there a little bit, but
Right.
it didn't even knock the white letters off the tires. It shouldn't be bent.
That's amazing. How is there something? There's just no magic, is what I guess I want people to understand. To summarize that list, there's just you're not putting special tuned, polished.
Right.
It's just not. It's just
Yeah.
not there. I wish that it was, right. Some oil may lubricate better. Some.
Well, I'm not oil religious, Roger, at all. But here lately, we have found this product that came out that is sincerely better.
Better.
It's. I've never been an advocate of light oils. I just say whatever you gain on the bottom is lost on the top.
Sure.
And I've kind of made that my thinking. So I've kind of abandoned that idea. But since then, we've got involved with this guy, and he's come up with a 3060 oil that is better when it's cold, but it's as good when it's hot. And that's a neat deal because on these early season, late season races, when it's so cold and your last
Right.
practice stops at 4:30 and you got to roll that thing up to qualify at 6:30 when it's lost 40 degrees, hey, there's an advantage.
Sure.
But it isn't an advantage if you sit on the pole and then 87 laps into the race, the gear
burn the
burns
locker out of it, yeah.
So, there's all kinds of things like that that are developing, and I like it. But like you said, there's no magic thing to go to the shop and buy these and you're going to go win a race. You've got to have everything correct.
I mean, I agree. I think that's, whether you're in the NFL or NASCAR or local short track racing, I think the more things you do correct, right, the more it's about. Let's switch gears a little bit to back in the day, right? Like, I know we use that term such as loose, but I really enjoy the back in the day. The back in the day is one of the reasons that I do this. I wasn't really that good at school. I was good at mathematics and history. That's about all I was good at. The
I was
rest
a valedictorian and I failed biology.
the rest is terrible, right? I wasn't interested at all. I'd rather be looking at race car magazines or RC cars, or we blew motors up in the garage. We did all kinds of things. It's becoming more hands-off. Do you see that as a good thing or a bad thing? For some hands-on guys, it's easy to say that it's not a good thing. But for the overall sport, do you see it as a good thing or a bad?
I think the sport back in the day, I hate to say that.
No, for sure, right. Me too, I'm with you.
But when people went to the races on Saturday night, yes, they saw racing, but they also saw characters.
The show.
Every one of them people had a different character. He's the guy that was dirty. He was the good, smooth guy. He was this guy. He was that guy. They attracted their own fans.
Sure.
Them fans every week went back to see how their hero did the next week.
Yes.
And part of that hero building thing is they understood what each one of them drivers went through to get there. That, you know, in the backstory is, man, that guy works down at the foundry down there, and he works his butt off to get here Saturday night. So when he wrecked that car last week, it was a big deal.
Right.
It wasn't like, well, Dad, we got to go get another clip put on this thing. This man worked.
He did it himself.
He did it himself. And I think that attracted the racing base, the fan.
The
my
blue
opinion.
collar fan.
Yes, yeah. Now, is it absolutely some days now the racing is probably better than it was back in the day, as far as you got 4 guys here that's got a shot at this
Right.
thing. But it's different because back in the day, that guy that crashed last weekend and he used everything he could to get back to the racetrack, he ran 3rd. His fans are tickled.
Right, they're
it's
happy.
like,
They didn't think
woo-hoo.
he was even going to come.
Right, right. So I think the fan base has changed. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's changed.
It's a different game.
It's just a different game. It's just a different game.
I wish I could say that, but I find it to be so true.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I guess nothing is ever staying constant. So I guess this shouldn't be a surprise to us, but I think we all had something that we thought was really special, and we want to hold on to it as long as we can.
Yeah.
And but I think the game is changing.
And all the guys, the good guys, kind of know what's going on. They abandoned racing themselves.
That's it.
And they hired themselves out.
That's it.
Because there's
That's
more
where
money in it.
Right. That's where.
Yeah.
That's where the brand is.
Yeah, I mean, hun, I can relate that we want to go race this weekend, but we're gonna have to forget about the new kid's shoes, but we're gonna race.
Right.
Or, man, I can go help these guys out on this race team for X amount of dollars, and I'm still racing.
Yeah, I think that's a trade-off. I think there's still some, right, that sacrifice a pretty good bit to try to be able to do it. There's a few names that come to mind that really work on their own stuff.
Absolutely.
That contact me quite a bit. You know, you try to give them. They're the guy that at 10:30 at night you spend an hour with,
Right.
because you know that that's all they have.
Yes, sir.
Right. So I love that guy. I'm actually probably backwards because I'll answer that guy's call because I really know how hard he's having to do it,
Right.
exactly like what you said.
And you're not answering that call because there's $1 in it for you.
No, most of the
You're-
time there's not $1 in it for me.
Exactly. You're answering that call just to be able to possibly learn something from this fella.
Yes.
Or have the good feeling of maybe helping him out for the next race.
I do. I that's actually the whole reason that I do any of it. I don't get a chance to interview many legends of this deal, although it's brought me some really good people around, and I'm intrigued. You know, you had this really good career, and I'm intrigued. I want you to talk to me about your social. You do a great job on social media, and you're engaged in social media, which I love. I want you to know this. I love that. I think it's amazing. I think it's a great way. I'm going to try throughout this interview to roll some B-roll. I'm going to go up to Larry's this week, and I'm going to shoot a little bit of what he's going on in his shop so that people can... I don't think people understand the amount of unbelievable work that you crank out of not a huge monstrous facility, not a 15-employee gig, legendary stuff has come out of this little shop in Taylorsville, right? And
Well, I appreciate that.
but it's been a lot of hard work. The intriguing part is the backstory. The intriguing part, there's 3 of you up there?
Yeah.
and you just continue to go and continue to go and continue to go.
Yeah, there again, the love of it.
Yeah.
I swear, Roger, if you sat down at the end of the year and said, how much money did I make? My goodness, there's got to be a better way to do this.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
There's 100%.
But bills are paid, hired some people,
Kinda
paid their
enjoy
thing, and I enjoy going to work. When when I raced for a living, we won our 2 bush races, one at Hampton, Virginia, one in Martinsville. And then all of a sudden people were asked me to drive their cup stuff. So I got on board with Roger Hamby and run my 4 cup races, so I didn't lose my rookie status for the next year. And back then...
And what year was this, 87?
Yes, 86, 87.
Huh? A student of the game right here.
Yeah, yeah. So anyways, we ran our 4 races, and back then you didn't buy yourself, and they asked you to drive their stuff. Well, the way it worked back then was you had 2 or 3 top teams. They were the guys. Yep. Then you had your Bud Boers and the Woods Brothers and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then you had your what they call independents, your Hambys and the DK rigs and all the other guys that had deals. So, and Kenny Schrader, that's how he did it. He got in somebody's car, kind of showed promise. You maybe get an opportunity to go to the next step. Right. That's how it worked. That's how it worked. So we got in old Roger Hamby stuff, and I love Roger Hamby. He's just the greatest guy to race for. Well, it just so happened that we kind of run pretty good in Roger Hamby's old stuff.
There you go.
And we went to Daytona in July of '87, I guess it was, and took that old. Nowadays it was an old shit box basically, and we had a qualifying motor, and
how many guys?
4 guys.
4 guys. Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
4 guys.
Right.
Everything. Paint, body, wheel pack, motor guy. So we got down there. We had a qualifying motor. We had a race motor. So we go down there, and back then they didn't have a spoiler rule. So here I am sitting in this thing to go out to qualify, and old Roger Hamby's back there with that big old rubber hammer knocking that spoiler down. And I'm going, oh my God.
This is gonna be big.
But we got stickers on. The first time we had stickers, this thing's gonna stick. So he said, okay, we'll just go out there. And I says, man, oh man, you keep knocking. He said, oh, you'll be all right, you'll be all right. Big old guy. You got to love Roger Hamby.
Yeah.
He's just a true grit racer.
Yep.
Big old guy, and we go, okay, so we go down there. And back then, you got 2 laps. That's all you got. So anyways, we go out, and we just get up to speed and come down there, check the green, come around. And on the 4th turn, coming off 4, it was just, I didn't lift, but I said.
But you wanted to.
Oh yeah, your brain, your foot was going this, your brain. So anyway, we made it. We come through there and just we come off there, and when we got to we qualified at 200.001. We were 18th quick. So we come down pit road, and I'm like this, and he's, oh, good job. And I'll never forget to this day, Will Lind and Kirk Shelmerdine, which I'd worked for. Sure. They come up the window, and they says, God dang, he says, that was unreal. I says, he says, but you didn't have another lap in this thing. And I says, no.
That was the end.
But that's what you did back then.
Right.
You know what I mean? You hung it out there. You didn't have no headrest. You didn't have no leg restraints.
I was actually talking to my wife at watching the 500 last night, and I'm amazed at with the heart rate monitors and all the things that they have now. I'm amazing the amount of fatigue that is saved from a person that's still going, aka the same speed, right? They were 190, I think, during the early stages of the race. They were 185, 190, and then as the race progressed, we got to 200. So it's the same speed, but with no headrest, with no huge seat, with no
leg restraint,
arm guards, no Hans device, right? Like you're just hanging on 200. That's a little different than we're sitting here.
Right, and it divides, and I'm not sure it's smart or dumb, but it divides the guys that want to do it from the guys that say, man, I can get in this thing and I can knock the crap out of the wall, and all I got to do is get out and kick the tire. Back then, if you did that, you're probably hurt. Right. So it really dictated how hard you were going to drive this thing.
That makes pure sense, right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was different back then because, yes, we'd go out there and run 201, and at Daytona Beach at 201 with them cars, you drove it like a short track. You just, go down the back street, and you roll that thing into 3, you roll out of the throttle, you pick up the apex, and you mash that thing back down, and you go, and you did that. But the thing is, what I'm saying is once the green flag stopped or started, up goes your motor, up goes the spoiler, up goes this. You did not race like that. You didn't get in there. You couldn't,
Right.
and that's why it's different today.
Those were just all-out kamikaze runs for
Yes.
trying to maintain
Right.
speed.
Yeah.
Which was amazing, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Safety has come so long, huh? So far.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The walls, the interiors of the cars, the roll cage. I mean, it's just, and it's been a work in progress. Every time somebody gets hurt or they have an accident,
Yes.
they look at it, they review it, they change it so that, and now they're unbelievable. I look at guys now that hit them walls way harder than I hit at Dover that took my career away, that just get out and kick the tire.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's a good thing. That is a good thing, you know. And it was just like we ran at Daytona. I think we ended up, I don't know. I better not say it. I think it's
No, it's
top
all right.
15.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you
know
go.
what I mean?
Look at- yeah, I
With
mean-
old Roger Hamby's car, good deal for us. It was a payday for him. So anyways, I am wore. We had an oil line leak in the car, and the floorboards are all covered in oil, and I can't breathe. It's the first year they put the windows in the sides, so I'm just halfway knocked out,
Yeah.
hot and wore out. No.
Oil fumes.
Yeah, no.
Good times right here.
Oh yeah, no air conditioning units, man. You're just out there just giving it, your old head wobbling around, and you got this little band that goes underneath your arm that
Trying to hold your helmet. Yeah.
So you keep tightening that thing up. What happens?
Cuts your
This
circulation
this
off.
arm goes down.
They gave me one as a go-kart racer, real young, like 10 or 11 years old. And we went to Angola, Indiana, which was a big track for go-karts. And I put it underneath my arm. And about halfway through the race, I realized, this is great and all, but I can't feel my left hand. Right? It was a good time.
So we get out of this race. We get I'm wore out. I'm stinking of oil. Can't breathe. And so, anyways, we just get out of the car, and old Darrell Walsh comes over and he says, "Okay, Larry," he said, "the plane's going to leave here in 15 minutes. Let's go. We're going to race a bush race at Gainesville, Georgia." And I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll be there." So I think I changed. I'm not sure.
Not sure at that point.
Yeah, because
right?
back then you didn't have
Right,
5
right,
uniforms.
right, understand.
So, anyways, we get on the plane, and Rusty and Darrell, myself, and Bob is a Clark. So it was his PR guy. What the heck was his name? Anyways, a good guy. We flew to Gainesville. We flew into the airport there at the racetrack. They had a little runway. So we get out, we haul butt across the racetrack, and I was driving for the Hansleys at the time, the Busch car for the Hansleys, and we were there for last practice because we'd raced at Daytona like 18 and a half minutes ago. So we get out there, I'm still sweating, you know, and I got my other suit on, so it didn't stink because of the sweat and
Right,
oil.
for sure.
So I climb in this thing. We're sitting on pit road ready to go out for last practice. And I'm all pumped up, you know. We just got down there, just got off the plane. I jump in there, you know, and I'm an old Hubert Hensley. He is just one of them old school racers.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
He was that way, but he was a great guy to work with, and we won races with him. But he come up and he leaned down on that door and he says, "Hey, boy, look at me." And I'm sitting there doing my stuff up, you know. I'm ready.
Ready
you know?
to go, yeah.
Yeah, I just made, you know, Daytona the race. Blah, 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 and he says, "Pollard," he says, "look at me." So I looked on and says, "What's going on?" And he says, "Listen." He says, "Look me in the eyes, and I'm going to tell you something." He said, "I want you to understand what I'm saying." He said, "You just got off Daytona running 200 miles an hour." He said, "You're now at a half-mile racetrack." He says, "Don't overrun the first corner." And I said to him, "Okay," you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Smart ass. I
Yeah.
know everything, right? So I said, "Okay, well, that's good." First thing I did, first lap, I didn't, but I
Almost
said,
did.
"Whoa, crap," you know. So, you know, the old guys got it going on,
got
you
it.
know.
They got it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're just too stubborn to listen to them because it's too late.
Yeah, we know more than they do, you know what I
Right,
mean?
for sure. For sure.
But there it goes back to what we talked about earlier, Roger. He learned that somewheres down the road, whether it was Jimmy Hensley driving for him or whoever.
had happened in the
It
past.
happened to that, you know. So, and that's what you got to feed off of all the time is this experience, you know. And you cannot buy it. You got to live it. You got to go through it. You got to fail at it. You got to succeed at it, and then your input becomes important.
Where do you think your biggest disconnect is with the racer of today? Do you have? I have some things that I just really struggle getting across. I just think the knowledge isn't there. Not meaning that my customer isn't smart, meaning that he has no idea about some spring rates or he doesn't know what a moment ratio is. Like some things that we use to make
Changes.
Mm-hmm. or things that we use to communicate. Education, like how do we better help the short track racer?
That's a loaded question because some of them, like you said, are perceptive to what you're saying.
Yes.
Some of them just want to come in here
And
and write
enjoy
a
it.
check and
Yes.
get it.
I,
You
I,
know.
I the biggest part is I think it takes all of them. The,
Yep.
the one thing that I want people to remember, and it came up quite a bit in the episode with Carrie Bodenheimer and
Yeah.
Greg, was that there was still rich people back then. Not that I don't want people
Absolutely.
that have any kind of money to think that I don't think that there's a way to get there. Like there's always been better cars,
Yes.
better crews, better
Absolutely.
this, right? This is just one of the evolutions of a racing sport. So, I don't think racing can operate without money. The intriguing part is I'm interested to see a couple businesses that try to work together. I think Winston now, over the course of my years that I've been here, I think Winston was one of the major keys to the success. Winston was a big distribution platform for NASCAR events, right? They
Oh
used
yes.
their NASCAR media to publicize their business, and I appreciate that. And I don't think we've had anybody that's done it really well since then. Not that people have not done it bad. Nextel did a decent job. There was still some branding with there, but since then it hasn't really a business. I don't think has grabbed a hold of NASCAR as we would like to see it, and just really run with it as their promo. But I don't know if that's a possibility anymore with the way NASCAR's structured. Right? NASCAR's structured a lot differently than it was in that time.
Yeah, and I'm speaking out of turn here in
There
a
wasn't
way
an owners
because
group. There wasn't a right
right.
like
But Junior went to, if I get it right, and please
Sure.
don't fact check this, but Junior went to say Winston said, "Look, we got an opportunity here to sponsor our series. Would you be interested?" Well, blah blah blah. What's the deal? Okay. Then they looked at it and said, "Wow, this is awesome. We get to distribute our products, our name, on
win-win.
win-win for the whole thing." That worked.
Right.
When that disappeared, guess what? The next people that NASCAR went to sell this program to was what? Exactly what Winston did.
Right.
Is it worth X amount of dollars for X amount of airtime?
Right.
And that's the only question that's on their mind. Where Winston, they were involved in it. And like you said earlier, I don't know that can be reproduced.
Right. I agree. I think it's a hard. It's like catching lightning in a bottle right there. Right. There's a lot of people that really benefited. I like to see the sport continue to keep growing and get better and better and better. And I think it's, that's one sad part to me that I'm really working hard on. I think I probably have 10 or 15 years left in my race owning career of business, and I want to really leave it better than I found it. And for me, that's kind of hard because I think economically things are changing. How do we leave it better than we found it? You found it in a pretty good way, right? Like, is it possible for everybody to get together? Is it possible for the tracks and the car builders and the rear end builders and the NASCAR or is it now become such a big entity that now nobody can agree?
We're racers.
That's
And you
it.
kind of answered your own deal there.
Yep.
You go to the racetrack Saturday night Hickory, and you've brought a guy's old car in there, and you've worked on it all week, and he happened to win that thing. Guess what? When you walk out that gate, you are just on cloud nine.
That's it.
I don't know that if that disappears, the idea of winning, the idea of beating the other guy, that's what racing is. And I don't know if you take that out of it and say, well, you're winning all the time. Can you share it with this guy? I don't think that'll work. Or it's
Yeah.
not racing.
Right.
I mean, there again, back in the day, the thing won't quite turn. We didn't know nothing about stagger and camber and wheel weights, or shocks, you know what I mean? Oh, that's a pretty shock we got. Let's put that on the right front. You know what I mean? That's the way we did it. And then you just went out there and drove your butt off to try to make up for what you didn't have
That's
in your
it.
car. So I don't know. That's the racer in everybody. That when you go to the racetrack with your crew in the front seat, your old '56 Ford pickup, and you've got pop cart trays as your tool rack. You know what I mean?
That's it.
It was everything. It was everything. But you went there, and there was people that you raced against that actually, in my case, I would snub them, not snub them like, oh, don't
Right.
want to talk to him. You were competing against
Yes.
them. You did not want them to learn anything that you were doing, right or wrong.
I think it's the biggest misnomer about me. Like I think people think that I hate them. It's not that I hate them. I just stay in my lane, right?
Right.
Like if you're my customer, I don't know that I've ever really gone up to another person that had a car and been like, hey man, you should lose what you have and come over here.
Right.
It's just not my wheelhouse. It's not my gig. I will not speak to you before I do that. Not in a bad way, like I don't, but like I want all my stuff to beat your stuff.
Right.
That's just it, right?
Right.
That's a hard thing that I find for myself in business, because sometimes I become more of a racer where I want to beat somebody
Than a businessman.
Where in this deal, I have to try to collectively look out for a group of people that support my company and my product.
And I don't know what your philosophy on that deal is, but like people come into my shop and say, yeah, I heard you did such and such rear in at Ace Speedway and blew their doors off. So I want one just like it.
Yep.
What do? I said, I can't tell you.
Right.
I will give it you exactly what, if you ask me what I would do it exactly like that, but I'm not going to call names. I can't do it.
100%. I don't think that's. I think I've been accused of that a couple times, and I have a couple standard things that we run, whether it's a track bar mount or whatever. We have some that we build specialized. A lot of time will tell you to call that person. If you want his track bar mount that he gets, you call him. If he tells me that we're good to go, I'll build it, no problem. If not, then that's kind of his deal. So that's one of the ways that I've stayed out of the fray. Spindles too, right? Like we build a lot of spindles for a lot of people, and I think that's an intriguing point to some people because they all want to know X or want to know Y. Well, the bad part that a lot of customer base has found out with me, and they think I'm lying to them, is most of my customers that are winning are just using my standard stuff. I wish I could make this into some wizardry deal that I have. So right, like I hate to tell you that most of my customers that are winning are running my standard things. A lot of my customers that I know this is not a bash against them. They go down their own. It's just very hard to get support when you go off of another direction. So I definitely try to help that customer, but it's harder because some of them get so far off the reservation that it's very hard to bring back on.
And they say, well, what spindle would you run? Here's your spindle.
Right.
That didn't work. Okay, well, where's your inner pivot point? Where's your up control arm? Well, it's not going to work with that, you know.
Right. My intriguing part is I really want to try to do as much education as possible. I've been trying to hire I just would like to make instructional videos of how do you know that this is an 8-degree spindle? Because listen, I'm telling you that 99% of my customer, that's probably high, that's probably bullshit. I would say 90% of my customer base has no idea if they have an 8, a 15, a 74, a 90. They have no idea.
If you know spindles, you don't have a 90-degree spindle.
No, I know. But the most intriguing part to me is they don't.
Or care.
So they have there's a number. We use a numbering system, and it'll be 50 and then something, or a series number and then a number. And I got to 65, 012. I'm like, no, this is not 65 degrees, pal. But it's a good time that you, right? It's intriguing to me that they don't. I'm glad you picked up on that. It's intriguing to me that they don't understand that that's not. So if I can start to slowly educate them, then hopefully I make the sport better, because I think the racing is really good at a lot of places. The racing is really bad at a lot of places, right? But the racing, there's some really good races.
But in the middle of that, teaching people, you have to make a living too, and that's the problem. And you know, you can spew all your knowledge out, and that's fine. But if the fella doesn't bring that rear back to you,
but I'm actually on another thing now. I don't care. It's something that's changed for me. Thank you so much. It's something that's changed for me in the last little bit. I was on. Many people know my family's had businesses their whole life, and I watched a lot of the guys back in the day that they were all about that we still have to make a living, and I agree.
Right.
But what I'm realizing is that if we don't educate and keep people involved, there'll be no living to make.
Be none out there, right?
And I see, unfortunately, I get to do quite a bit of hands-on stuff, so I get to see where the company's at what time, where it's at here, where it's at there, when we're really rolling, and when we're in the basement, right? Because if anybody tells you that doesn't happen, they're lying to you, right? Like, and I think the game is just changing. That my mode is changing, and I don't know if that's right or wrong. I guess we'll yet to be determined. But that's some of the reasons that I want to do things like this. I want people that didn't get to hear stories that you went to Daytona and ran 201 in a car with the
01.
Okay, right, like 200 doesn't either way, right? Anything,
but
past,
it was 200.
right? Everything past 200, I got nothing, right? I'm not. I think that's some of the. I just don't. I think people think we've come so far when, if you look at it, we have, but we've really not gone any different.
No, exactly right.
The other thing I want young people to understand, and you're a great guy for this, when you were on that airplane with that the group of people that you spoke about earlier, there were some iconic names in there.
Yeah.
And it felt no different than it feels today.
No.
I think sometimes people think that once we can get around them or once we can get whatever, then that becomes different. But these are just normal people. Mm-hmm. They just choose to do an extraordinary thing. And that's something that I think people, that was kind of anticlimactic for me. I thought once I got to the big stage, this would be a completely different deal.
It's not what I thought. Yeah.
Wasn't.
Yeah.
Wasn't.
Still hard work.
Yes.
Still relationships. Still getting around with people. It's the same deal if you're in a Ma's Market selling candies. It's the same deal.
I wish a lot of time we try to make it not the same deal, but it really, really is. And you guys thought then, when you were on that airplane, that you were on the cutting edge of everything that there was, right? Like, I mean,
absolutely.
This was the pinnacle. And what's intriguing is we're not that far away from it right now. The same exact game.
Yeah, exactly right.
And I just think, I mean, that's 30 years ago. And you see that we're doing the same. We just ran the Daytona 500 the other night, right?
Exactly.
So I'm intrigued by that. I want to thank you for stopping by.
That's awesome.
Tell us where your place is. I appreciate your social media, by the way. I like the fact that you share a lot of good content and do a lot of things. So I'm hoping you'll share this on there. I'm going to link all your social media stuff to it.
Cool deal.
But tell us a little bit about the shop before we go.
Just small shop.
Small shop.
Been there for 20 years now. Automatic transmission stuff we don't do. Standard stuff, rear end stuff, 4x4 stuff, a lot of race car stuff. We do. That's our big deal. Quick changes, transmissions for super late models, late model stock. But that's our deal.
Right.
And we've been blessed with so many good customers that give us the opportunity to try stuff and not crucify us if it doesn't work.
Sure.
So over the years, that's worked out real good. There's good people out there yet. You know, we talk about the world as, man, going to crap and all this.
Yeah.
There's some good people out
agree.
there. There's some really good people out there, and that's the only reason why we keep going. Because I'm telling you, it's not because we're getting rich. I'm telling you. When the month comes in and you say, man, we had a pretty good month, and then all of a sudden the bills start coming, and you go, crap, I'm going to get a job somewhere because this ain't getting it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
But
we're something you love.
Yeah, we're loving it, and yeah, it's all good. My sister from Canada is a photographer for profession, and so she feeds social media with the pictures. All of a sudden, there's an old picture come up, and I don't even know it exists, and she'll say, "Found this," you know, and that's awful neat just to go back just for a day or two and look at the picture and just say that's when we did then, you know.
Yeah.
So life's good. Enjoy what we do. We're good. I think it. This is another story, but Ricky Rudd.
Sure.
I worked with him at Richard Childress, and we got along real well. I love Ricky Rudd. I don't know, you know, he's whatever, but Ricky's my man. I like Ricky Rudd.
Ricky's a good dude.
Yeah. So, anyways, when he started his deal, he asked me to head that deal for him. And point being, a lot of money offered. I went down, did the shop tour with the guys, and a lot of the guys in there at the time I knew already because I've been in Winston Cup for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And went home, and I said, not going to do it. and it was not money because it was more money than I'd seen in my whole life, but just not what I wanted to do. So I decided to do my own thing. Was it the right decision? Money-wise, no. But the people that you've met and the things you've done, I wouldn't trade for nothing.
Yeah, but I still, I know it sounds bad, and I know we need money to survive, but I'm playing the happiness game now.
Yeah.
I think we have to a point, right? Like, I think everybody, there's no reason for everybody to be mad. I think we can definitely figure out a way to educate some people, to help them, right? Like, there's different things. I'm just finding the joy in the racing deal a different way than I used to,
Yes.
if that makes sense. I
Absolutely.
used to, even when I was with my son racing quarter midgets or whatever, I always been very competitive. I never like to lose. You may beat me once, but I'm just that guy. I'll keep coming back until I'm, they thought that this thing would be closed in a year when I bought it, right? Like, so
Right.
I like playing the underdog card.
Right.
I've always liked it.
Yeah.
I think it's what makes us great.
Well, and you brought up a great point, because when you're 20, 30, when you lose a race, you're hot.
Oh, I was.
I was unlivable.
100%.
We get older, and I'm telling you, in the last 6 months, I'm getting to the age now where a lot of people around you aren't having another day. All of a sudden,
Right?
that ain't so important.
It's
You know
not
what
at
I mean?
all.
And if
Not
somebody
at all.
comes in your door, and you accommodate them more because it's life. You know what I mean? And obviously that comes with age, but the younger you learn that in your life, the better off you're going to be. I promise you.
I think it comes with losing.
Yes.
And I mean losing in all kind of ways.
Yeah.
I've been preaching to my son here a lot lately to get used to losing, because if he can figure out, if you get enough losses, you start to figure out the things that worked, right? Right? And I know I was just such a miserable cuss that I just never really became great at losing until later on in my life, until I started to lose friends or
Right.
things that became so much more important
Than the trophy.
Yep. But I think until those things, if I could go back and tell the young me, right, like that was what you start to lose friends that you work with,
Absolutely
or family members, or your pastor at your church, or whatever. You start to experience different losses, and I just don't mean with people. I mean with jobs and careers, and
Material
I think
things,
it
yeah.
humbles you
Yep.
to a point. I know it has me in the last 2 or 3 years of my life. I lost a few good friends, and
Yes.
it really, 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 those were some life-changing things for me.
Yep. Same thing. And the neatest thing about what you just said is, years later, that person that was your foe
Yeah,
and you couldn't stand to race them because you do this or that, when you mend that years later, that's the best mending ever, because it's erased.
right.
But if you could go back and repair that at a younger age, you're going to be a better man down the
100%.
road.
I started so many wars because I
Yep.
thought it was a me or you. I thought
Yep.
either you had to win or I had to
Yes.
win, and I that's just not the case.
And it wasn't going to be me.
Right? And right, you weren't going to take me down, right?
Right.
Like, and I think my family all worked very, very hard. Nothing was given to them. And I think that was instilled in me, right? That, I mean, we lived like we were. I hate to say this, but we lived like we were immigrants, man. We didn't
Exactly.
like we didn't have anything,
Yeah.
and I think they just worked 20 hours a day, and I think that caused me to not like losing, and I performed it wrong the first 35 years of my life, probably almost 46 or 7 or 40,
Well,
36 or 7. I just had such a skewed perception of it was all about the money, and I didn't give anything to it. And the intriguing part is now I've made it almost not about any of the money, and I'm enjoying more happiness than I probably ever have in my life. It's weird, so
But
weird.
back then, you worked hard for the money to spend on that thing, so you were more centered on it.
Right.
And if somebody took something away from you, you were madder then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I got nothing. I went back to my old school, my dad ways, right? Like I have a little Ford van. I used to have 5 cars and a big house on the lake, and I had all this
Don't
stuff.
need that.
And I realized that I was doing it wrong.
Yeah.
It took me. It took actually just like I said, some of the loss of my friends for me to realize that this,
Yes.
like, what am I chasing here? It's not. I enjoy spending time with my son now that I didn't eat. And, you know what I mean? Just a lot of different things that bring you happiness.
That is so true. Just the hug from your son,
100%.
or go motorbike race with your son on a Sunday, that to me now is everything.
Yep.
It's just, this is cool. Riding down the road with a dirt bike in the back with your son.
Right.
How cool is that?
That's
you know?
it. That's it. I think those are some of the things that take up he and I now racing, or he, I mean, because that's essentially what a lot of those things became, was those were outlets to communicate better with him. And your boy works for you, yes?
Yeah, he's really coming on. He loves it, which is the main thing. We've had people in there. We've had people in there from the NASCAR school training. Come on here and get this diploma, and they ain't worth throwing out. So if you find a couple guys that when they come in there and they're just, what can I do for the betterment of this place every day? You're a winner.
Yeah.
You're gonna, and that's what he's at. He asks so many questions, but he's getting so daggum good at it. I'll be busy trying to answer the phone and talk to this guy and that guy, and I'll have a little project going. He'll say, Dad, are you going to put that washer in there? You know what I mean?
That's it.
He's into it. That's the whole deal. So I'm a blessed man.
That's
really
awesome.
Am. Yeah.
I always bet on the jockeys.
Yep.
I always bet on the jockey. You find a guy that's a good operator, I always take him.
Forget the horse,
That's
get the jockey.
I always take the jockey. I always take the jockey. Well, this has been episode 11 of The Grind. I hope you appreciated it. I liked getting L.P. down. I'm going to, hopefully I can include some V-roll I'm going to shoot up at his place. I'd like you guys to really see it. Check him out for your rear end stuff. He's very knowledgeable. You can call him, ask him a few questions, take your stuff up to him. Like he said, he brings you. Sometimes you drop off something that doesn't look like a rear end, and when you pick it up, it's got the iconic LP sticker on the side, and everything looks nice and new and the way it should. And I know I appreciate it. You've bailed me out of a million jams, and I'm so thankful for that. Yeah. And I appreciate you taking the time to come again today.
Man, this is awesome, just hanging out with you.
Yeah,
talking junk, and yeah, it's all good, man. It's just part of the life,
That's great. We'll do it again, and
let's do.
You guys. Subscribe to the channel if you can. Hit that like button and subscribe for more notifications. And we'll catch you guys on episode 12. Thank you so much. Have a great day.